In this lecture and in the next one, we are going to implement a user-friendly password reset functionality, which is kind of standard in most web applications. And you might have used the password reset functionality before while using some web application. And it usually works something like this. So first, you have to provide your email address. Then you will get an email with the link where you can click. That link will take you to a page where you can put in a new password and reset your password. Right. And this is a very standard procedure for resetting a password. And that's how we are also going to implement it in our application. So here, basically, two steps are involved. In the first step, the user sends a post request to forgot password route only with his email address. This will then create a reset token and send that to the email address that was provided. So just a simple random token, not a JSON web token. Then in the second part, the user sends that token from his email along with the new password in order to update his password. This functionality we will implement in the next lecture. Okay, so let's go to VS Code. And here in the auth controller, we basically need two functions. The first function for the forgot password. So let's create that function. So let's say exports dot forgot password. It's going to be a middleware function. And this middleware function is going to receive the request, the response, and the next function. Then we also want to have the password reset middleware. So again, let's say exports dot password reset. Again, it is going to be a middleware function, and there we are going to receive the request object, the response object, and the next function. So as I mentioned earlier, first the user will make a post request to this forgot password, and in here we will write the functionality to get the user based on his email address, generate a token for that user, and send it to his email. Then once the user will receive the email with the reset password token, he will again make a post request to this password reset function, where in the post request he will send his new password along with the token which he has received. And then this function will reset the user's password. So we will implement this function later. Now let's also go ahead and let's create the routes for these two functions. So let's go to File Explorer here and let's go to this authrouter.js. And there, just like login and sign up, let's go ahead and let's create routes for reset password and forgot password. So let's say the URL is going to be forgot password, and here it is going to be reset password. And the middleware function here, it will be forgot password. So this is the function which we want to call when a user makes a request to forgot password. And then we want to execute reset password middleware when a request is made to this reset password URL. So it is going to be reset password. Okay, let me go back to authcontroller.js here. All right, we are calling it password reset, but let me go ahead and let me call it reset password instead of password reset. Okay, so we have our route in place now. We have our middleware functions in place. Now we just need to go ahead and implement the functionality. So in here, inside this forgot password middleware function, we need to do three things. The first thing is we need to get user based on the posted email. So as I mentioned, when the user will make a request to this forgot password API, he's going to make a post request, and with the post request, he's going to provide his email address. So based on that email address, we need to get the user from the MongoDB database. Once we have the user, what we need to do is we need to generate a random reset token. And this reset token we will send back to the user. And finally, in the third step, we need to send an email to the user with the reset token. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's implement these functionalities one by one. And the first one is very simple, and I think you already know how to do that. So let's go ahead and let's create a variable. Let's call it user. And then in order to get the user from the database, on the user model, we are going to use the find one method. Okay, so using this find one method, we are going to filter the user based on his email, because when the user will make a post request to this API, he is going to send the email in the request body. So from the request body, we can get that email, and based on that email, we can filter the user. So on the request body, we will have the email property. Okay, and based on that email, we want to filter the user, and we will assign that user to this user variable. Now, if this expression, let's also use the await keyword here because it will run asynchronously. And let's make this function as async because we want to use the await keyword. And since it is an async function, let's also wrap it within async error handler function. All right, so if the email provided by the user, if with that email we have a user in the database, in that case, this expression will return that user and we are assigning it to this user variable. But if with that email we don't have any user, in that case, this expression will return undefined. So we want to check if the user actually exists in the database or not. So for that, let's use this if statement, and there let's check not user. That means if the user does not exist, in that case, we are going to create an error object. So basically, we are creating an instance of our custom error class. Okay, and here let's specify an error message, and let's say we could not find the user with given email, and then the status code will be 404. That means not found. And from here, let's go ahead and let's call the global error handling middleware by using this next function and passing this error object to that next function. Okay, all right. But if the user exists, we want to move to the next step where we are going to generate a random reset token. For this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a reusable function here, and this function will be an instance function. It will be an instance method which we can call on the user object. So again, let's go to usermodel.js, and there let's create an instance method. And to create an instance method, as you already know, we need to use the user schema. On that, we need to call the methods, and on that we can create our instance method. And I'm going to call this method create reset password token. Okay, you can name it anything, but I just want to give it a meaningful name. So since this function is going to create a reset password token, I'm calling it create reset password token. All right. Inside this, let's create a variable. Let's call it reset token. Okay. Now this password reset token, it should be a random token, but at the same time, it should not be as cryptographically strong as the password hash that we created before. So we can use the very simple random bytes function from the built-in crypto module in order to create this reset token. So let's go ahead and let's first import this crypto library. So for that, let's create a variable. Let's simply call it crypto, and let's require the crypto package here. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's use this crypto package. So here let's say crypto dot random bytes. So this is a function which we can use to create a random string token. Okay, so first we need to specify the number of characters which we want in the string token. Let's say 32. And then we also need to specify the number type. So as you can see, first is the size, and then we can also specify the type in which we want to have this reset token string. So basically here we want the token to be a hexadecimal number. Okay, so for that we can say to string, and there we can specify hex. All right, so here it is going to create a reset token, but this reset token, it is not going to be encrypted. It will be a plain token. And this is the token which we are going to send to the user. And it's like a reset password only that the user can use to create a new password. So only the user will have access to this token. Now, since this reset token, it is going to be a plain string. If we store it in the database and if a hacker gets access to the database, then hacker can change the password instead of you doing it. So they would then effectively control your account instead of you controlling it. And so just like password, we should not store this reset token in a plain text. First, we are going to encrypt it, and then we are going to save it in the database. Now again, the encryption of this reset token, that should not be that strong like we did it for password. So for the password, we use a strong encryption, but that is not required for this reset token. And so to encrypt this reset token, again, we can use the crypto package here. So we can say crypto dot create hash. So here also we are simply creating a hash. We are encrypting the reset token, and to this we need to specify the algorithm which we want to use. Here we want to use SHA-256 algorithm. Then we need to use update function on this, and there we need to specify which string we want to encrypt. In this case we want to encrypt this reset token. And after that, let's also use the digest function, and there we will specify in which format we want the encryption. So again, here we want the encryption in hexadecimal format. All right. Now, where are we going to store this encrypted reset token? Well, again, we are going to store it in the database, but to store it in the database, we need to have a field where we want to store this. So on this schema, after this password changed, let's go ahead and let's create one more field, and let's call it maybe password reset token. Okay, it is going to be of type string. And I'm also going to specify one more field which will be password reset token expire. And this is going to store a date time. Okay, so in this field we will store when the reset token password will expire. All right, so here let me copy this field name. Let me scroll down, and here let's say this dot password reset token equals this value. Now here we want to use this keyword. So here we cannot use the arrow function syntax. So I will use the function keyword here. Okay. Now we also want to set the value for this password reset token expires. So when will this password expire? Usually in the real world applications, the token which we receive in the email for resetting the password, that expires in 10 minutes. So that's what we are going to do here. This password reset token, this will expire in 10 minutes. So for that, let's say this dot password reset token expires, and here let's specify a time on this. So here let's say date dot now, so it will give us the current date and time. On that we want to add 10 minutes, so for that let's say plus 10. This time is in minutes, we need to convert it into milliseconds in order to add it. So we can say 10 into 60, so this will give us the time in seconds, into 1000, so this will give us the time in milliseconds. So we want to add these many number of milliseconds to the current date time, and this is basically the number of milliseconds in 10 minutes. Okay, so after 10 minutes the reset token which has been generated, that will expire. Finally, let's go ahead and let's return the reset token. Okay, so here if you see, we are returning the plain reset token, we are not returning the encrypted reset token, because the user should get the plain reset token. He should not get the encrypted reset token. But in the database, we should be storing the encrypted reset token. So when the user will make a request using this reset token, first we will compare this reset token with the encrypted reset token in the database. And if they are same, then only we will proceed. I hope you got the point. Now just for testing purpose, let's go ahead and let's add a console.log statement here, and let's log the plain reset token, so this one, and also the encrypted reset token, so this dot password reset token. Let's save the changes here, and let's go ahead and let's use this function in our auth controller. So here we can simply say user dot and then the name of the function, and we know that this is going to return us the reset token, the plain reset token. So let's go ahead and let's store it in a variable, and let's simply call it reset token. Now here, if I go back to user model.js, we are simply setting the values for this password reset token and password reset token expires. But it has not been saved in the database. So these updated values, this has not been saved in the database. So we also need to save that. For that, let's go back to authcontroller.js again, and on this user object, let's call the save function. Okay, and this is going to run asynchronously, so let's await it here. Okay, with this, let's again save the changes and let's test this out. So let's go to Postman, and let me open a new tab here, and here we are going to make a post request, and let me add the URL. So I will go to this login request. I'll copy this URL. Let me paste it here. And here we are going to make a request to forgot password API. This is what the URL is. Right, if I go back to VS Code and if we go to authroute.js, the name is forgot password. So after the URL, after API/v1/users, we need to specify forgot password. And we need to make a post request here, because if you see for this route, we are expecting a post request. Then only this forgot password route handler will be called. So let's again go back to Postman. All right. Then when we are making this post request in the body, we also need to specify the email address. So let me select raw here. We are going to send a JSON data. So there we are going to specify an object. In that object, we will specify email. And here, let's say we want to change the email of maybe this user, Mark. So I'll copy his email from here and let's specify it here. So for this user, we want to change the password. So currently we are going to make a request to this forgot password API. Let's go ahead and let's make this request. And here you see we are getting this error message. Something went wrong. Please try again later. Now here we don't know what the error is. So what I will do is I will stop this process by pressing Ctrl C and I will run this application in the development mode. So for that I will run this command npm run start. So this will run this application in the development mode. If I press enter, now the application should be running in the development mode, and in the development mode we will get the actual error. So again, if I go ahead and if I make the request, you see we have this error message, callback must be a function. And here we have this error in user model.js at line number 72. Let's go back to user model.js line number 72. And the problem here is with this random bytes function, I think. So if I hover over this function, it has 4 overloads. So the first overload only takes a size. Then let me see what are the other overloads. So this is the second overload where it takes a size and a callback function. So what I will do is I will remove this one and let's try only with the size. Okay, so let me save the changes again. Let's go back to Postman and let's make a request again. And here it says user validation failed, confirm password, please confirm your password. So basically here we have the validation error because we have not provided any value for the confirm password. So what we want is, in this case, we don't want to validate. So for example, here when we are saving the user data in the database, at that time we don't want to use the validations which we have used on the user schema. Okay, we only want to validate when we are updating a user or when we are creating a user. But in this case, we simply want to save the password reset token and password reset token expires. Okay, so here I am going to disable the validation. For that, we can simply say validate before save and we can set it to false. All right, with this, let's save the changes again. Let's go back to Postman. Let's make a request. So here we will not get any response because from this function currently we are not sending anything back to the client. So let me go ahead and let me cancel it here. But let's go back to VS Code, and there you see this one is the encrypted token. Okay, encrypted reset token, and this one is the plain reset token. But I want this plain reset token in the hexadecimal form, and to do that, the mistake which I was doing is I was passing it as second argument, but actually it should be dot to string, and there I need to specify the type as hex. Okay, and this should now work. So let me save the changes again. Let me go back to Postman and let me make a request again. So again, since we are not returning any response, it will keep on going. So let me cancel it here. But let's go back to VS Code, and there you will now see that this plain token is also in hexadecimal format, and this one is the encrypted token. Okay, so now we have our plain token and the encrypted token. Next, what we want is we want to send this plain token in the email to the user, and using that token he can reset his password. So we will do that in the next lecture. Okay, now before we wrap up this lecture, let me also go back to Compass. Let me refresh this collection, and now you will see for this user Mark, whose email we send with the post request to forgot password, you can see now we have two new fields: password reset token, which is this token, and then password reset token expires, which is the current date plus 10 minutes. Okay, so at this date and time, this reset token will expire. All right, so this is all from this lecture. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.